Today's show brought to you in part by GoToMeeting. For a free 30-day trial, use code podcast at gotomeeting.com.
Really, it's as easy to operate as a toaster. What's wrong with this picture is next.
Hey, welcome to What's Wrong with This Picture, and easy to operate as a toaster. You're obviously talking about a modern DSLR camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah, is that true?
Yeah, I think it is.
Uh-huh.
It's just all about how you approach it, you know. And of course, the approach we offered in the very beginning was read your manual.
Right. Well, that's one of the key factors. And of course, early on in the manual, you're going to see a lot of screens.
Right.
And if you're used to operating an older camera that actually had knobs to adjust things, these screens get a little bit intimidating.
Well, it can. On the other hand, as I have said before, we're fortunate that the industry decided to use the same terminology they used when we were much younger and using film. So not everything has changed, just a matter of finding where those adjustments are now as opposed to where they were on that old camera.
Okay, now are most manufacturers, they use kind of the same terminology.
Right.
Are the screens set up in a similar way?
Yeah, very similar. You're going to find the same adjustments and the same options in about the same place. They may move them around on the screen. When we're talking about screens, I suppose we should clarify, we're talking about the screens on the camera that tell you how your camera is set.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
in this case, here's a, let's see if we can make there. It's, right here is an LCD screen on the top of the camera. That carries a lot of information. Here's a shot of it there. There's a lot of information in that little window that you need to be concerned about and aware of. At the same time, it doesn't have to be intimidating. Let's look at this screen, for example. You've just fired up your DSLR and you're about to learn a little bit more about using it. And you look at this screen and you say, what is all that stuff?
Oh, I can guess because it's printed there. It says ISO 100.
Yeah, now that tells you something. If we look at that point on the screen, it's obviously you're setting your ISO settings so that you determine how sensitive your sensor is, just like you would have with your film, bought the various sensitivities of film. But let's look at the rest of the screen. At the upper left hand corner it says AWB, automatic white balance. Now that,
and we're going to be talking about that in a whole show of itself, right?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about white balance, but that's where you look to see how have I got my white balance set. Now, without looking at anything else, I can also tell, going to the right from that, that my shutter speed is set at 125th of a second. So I know what kind of motion I can stop. Do I need to make an adjustment there for light or whatever? And then to the right of that, it says 11. That's going to be my f-stop. So the opening of the aperture.
So the really critical information is
right
in
there.
Large print. So
yeah,
you can see
that 108 there was telling me how many pictures I had left on that memory card.
Right, right.
And so on. So these kinds of things on the screen. In fact, let's look at that screen again just for a second. Down below there you see that L and RAW below it. That's telling us what kind of file format we're going to capture. In this case, we're going to capture two. We're going to capture a JPEG in large resolution. We're going to also capture a RAW file. So we're going to get two files for every picture we take.
Available from that. So you got the eyeball symbol to the right.
Yeah,
what's that
one,
magic thing?
That one I'm going to actually kind of skip over because that one is active when we've got the camera set to automatic modes. And we're talking about using other kinds of settings. Like manual and so on.
Yeah.
So what we really have there is a lot of information, and let's move on to look at some of that specific information. The next slide we have is talking about multi-frame mode, or that you see that highlighted area down in the lower right-hand corner. Here we're setting the camera so that if I push the button down and I hold it down, it's going to continue to take pictures as fast as it can. Now that might be, in this case of this particular camera, 3.9 frames per second. Sounds fast till you understand there are cameras out there now, quite commonly, that can take up to 10 frames per second. So that's a lot of pictures, and of course we'd use that when we're taking something where the subject is moving and we want to capture several of those. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that we're looking at that same area, only now we changed the setting. It's got a little clock dial there, and what that's telling you is it's set to have a time delayed shutter. Now that is used quite frequently. I use it whenever I'm taking those family pictures and I want to be in the family. At that point, I'm going to set this setting to where it is there, so that when I push the shutter button, and then of course the camera's on a tripod, and then I take off running to get into the picture and get myself all set up, this camera is now counting down whatever the setting you have for how many seconds that it's going to wait before it actually takes a picture, and that red light out front is blinking.
Okay. Now, you have another screen that's set up on the back of the camera. What's the difference between the two, and why do you even need one?
That's really handy because in the back of the camera we have this other screen here, the big one, 3-inch screen in this case. And that gives me a lot of different information depending on how I have it set. But really, let's say I'm taking a picture and I want to see, I'm holding the camera up high for some reason. I can't see that top screen that we were looking at earlier.
Okay, so demonstrate that if you're holding.
So I'm up here, and maybe I'm trying to take a picture of somebody in front of me, and I want to get a higher shot looking down on them or something. Now I can't. I have to take the camera down to look at that top LCD, unless I have this back LCD set to show me the same information. So now let's look at that slide again, and you see that everything and more that I was looking at on that top LCD screen is now visible in the back. The shutter speed, the f-stop, the ISO setting. In fact, it tells me that I'm in manual mode in this particular case. It tells me I don't have any exposure adjustment, either under or over exposing. It shows me, in this case, where the focal point is in my
That's a little
screen.
Constellation looking thing
right,
there.
And how I've got my focusing set. It shows me auto white balance. It shows me what kind of file format again, and it shows me that I'm on a time delay so that I can get into the picture myself. It also shows me at the bottom there what condition my battery is in. In this case, it's a full battery, and I also have 108 pictures left to take.
So really your most critical information is at the top of the frame and the bottom of the frame,
right?
Of kind of your gas gauge, so to speak.
That's right.
And then what the current settings are for the image that you're capturing.
Right.
As
and
well.
So what we've got here then is just a great amount of information that we can see in a very small area. And once we learn, by reading that manual, once we learn that we can make those adjustments individually, now we can do some things in taking pictures that you just couldn't do with that point-and-shoot camera.
Dennis, after you're finished reading the fine manual, or while you're reading that, you might keep in mind that next episode we're going to be talking about outdoors. What's our specialty there?
Well, in the outdoors segment, we'll talk about taking pictures of water, and we'll be talking about specifically using reflections in water and how to control that. And it's going to be an interesting segment. Okay,
great. Hey, I might remind you that What's Wrong with This Picture has a board on the RVNN Pinterest board, a special one, all for Dennis. Circle us on Google Plus, and check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. And especially on Twitter, if you have a question for Dennis, you want to join in the conversation, the hashtag is #3W. The figure 3 WTP as What's Wrong With 3 W's 3 WTP. Use that as the hashtag, and you'll be able to join the conversations and send things to Dennis directly. Thanks for joining us here today, and join us again on What's Wrong with This Picture.
Gabe want to go for a walk? Gabe? Gabe? Gabe?
Hey, buddy, you lost? Hold on.
If your pet is the adventuresome type, be sure he's connected to PetHub. A quick scan using any smartphone shares your pet's vital information so that even his wildest escapades have a happy ending. PetHub, reuniting pets with their families.
Come on, Gabe, let's go home.